Hello folks, welcome back. Today we're going to take a deviation from our usual topics of clocks and watches and talk about a pocket knife that I picked up this week. I don't intend to deviate too much from the topics of clocks and watches, but this was something that I just had a few thoughts on and didn't find a lot of other information on the internet about this, so I thought I would share a little bit. If this is not your thing, no hard feelings, you can go ahead and I'll see you in the next video, but if you are interested, please stay tuned. I have been a casual knife guy all of my life, from initial Swiss Army knives, the red multi-tool things, the more tools the better as a gadget freak. And I have been carrying a Benchmade knife for a long time. This one I've carried since 2018, and I'm very pleased to say that I have not lost it in 7 years of fairly heavy carry. And lately I've gotten into some of the newer Benchmade Bugouts, specifically the carbon fiber knives. I like these knives because they're dressy looking, they're sharp, they're ultra lightweight and thin, and I just think they're classy and well made. I'm not a major knife steel guy, so if you're looking for a lot of comparisons on how many times can I cut a rope, there are other people that do that. I just wanted to give some thoughts as a regular user of a knife to see how that held up over time. So this knife I've been wearing fairly regularly for about 2 years and thought about maybe getting a backup, but what caused me to maybe look somewhere else is just that the price of these has gotten crazy. This has gone up about 20% in the last couple of years, and I know Benchmade prices have been going to the moon for longer than that, and I just wanted to see what else was out there. And so I found this Kershaw Bel. This is a knife that I paid right about $200 for. It is also a carbon fiber knife. And for those of you that are knife steel nerds, this is Magna Cut. There's a lot of buzz about this blade. And honestly, I've not owned this long enough to actually have any opinions, but supposedly it's great. I liked the form factor. I wanted to get something else that was less expensive than a Benchmade and equally good. So let's talk about it. So here we have the Kershaw Bel carbon fiber next to the full-size Benchmade Bugout carbon fiber, and then the mini Bugout carbon fiber. And you can see that the size of the Bel and the full-size Bugout is very, very close. The baby Bugout here is a fair bit smaller. I really like the baby Bugout when I'm wearing jeans that are kind of tight or dress pants. This thing weighs almost nothing, and it's small enough that it just disappears in my pocket, and I really love it for that when I'm not doing anything that I expect to need a lot of knife for. That's great. However, when I have the room in a pants pocket, I do like the full-size Bugout. It just fits my hand a little better. The knife blade is a little longer, and this is almost a perfect knife. One of the reasons that this is so light is the metal inner liners don't actually run the full length of the knife. They're only at the front here, and then this back spacer, and that's all lightweight materials. This knife weighs just right around 2 ounces. The Kershaw Bel is about 3 ounces. It's somewhere around 40% heavier than the full-size Bugout. And the reason for that is you can see the full-length liners in this knife. And so it's, I mean, you can tell the difference, you can feel it, but this is very well balanced. You know, if anything, the Bugout is a little light on the handle, where the Bel actually balances very nicely. Again, it's not a big difference, but there is something to that. One of the other major differences of the Bel versus the Bugout is the Bugout has a bushing on the knife pin here, and you can do some cool tricks, which are, you know, forgive me for doing this through a camera lens, but you know, you can flick it open, and that tension is adjustable by adjusting the screw here to loosen that a little bit, and you get a little end shake trading off against the lower friction of not having pressure on the bushing. The Bel actually has a ball bearing, and the knife just falls open and closed. And so it's kind of neat. If you want to fidget, this is probably your fidget, because you can, with a little bit of practice, you can just pop it open, and, you know, it just, my clumsy movements through the camera lens don't do this justice how smooth this is. There we go. I just, you know, holding it at a little bit of an angle and pulling the release pin and then timing it right can get the knife to actually open. I will say this has been a little bit of a learning curve, and honestly, this is what caused me to make the video today. What I have been doing for years and years with the bug out here is I just flick it, I don't think about it, and I go to work. Close the knife, open the knife, I use my thumb on the thumb stud, pop it open, go to work, and there we go. Well, after having carried the Bel Air for a while, I was looking at my thumb going, how do I keep cutting myself? I've got a gash right here, got a gash here, and I've got another small one right here. And I'm not claiming to be the world's smartest person, but I was trying to figure out what am I doing with what feels like an almost identical knife to the bug out that I've been doing for years on this knife and many, many years on my mini Griptilian, where I do this without thinking and have done so for the better part of a decade. Why am I suddenly hurting myself constantly? And it took me a while to figure out what I was doing, and it actually is my technique relative to this being so smooth with the ball bearing here. There's enough of a little hill for the knife to climb where it actually pops open ahead of my thumb, and so the pin goes here, and then my thumb actually digs into the blade and finishes opening the knife with the blade itself and my thumb. And so in having this knife for a week or so, I've managed to cut myself about 3 times with this. And so it was just one of those stupid things that I wanted to talk about, and I know it's a me problem. Like I said, you can open it with other techniques, and it's fine. But it was funny enough that I wanted to just make a video and talk about what this was like in daily use and how that compared to the bug out. So anyway, all of these are great. I've had these knives for long enough to have some idea of what the S90V steel is like, and again, I like the style, I like the weight, I like the fit and finish. I'm not necessarily a believer that a $330 knife, which is the astronomical price of this bug out, is worth it, because you still have to sharpen. You cannot spend money to avoid sharpening. The fancy steels, do they last longer? Yes, they last longer than a $25 knife from a home improvement store, but you still sharpen these. I've sharpened this knife probably 15, 20 times in the last 2 years, and if you want it sharp, you just got to keep sharpening it. Like I said, this guy for $200 has the great form factor, the really fun, other than injurious, ball bearing hinge on here, and it's got MagnaCut. I will see how real this is. I'm kind of excited. I do expect that I'll, if I can teach myself how to not hurt myself every time I use this knife, I do expect to carry this a lot, and I'm excited to maybe do a follow-up in a year or so to see if I can tell any difference in regular use, not, how many times you can cut a piece of paper or cut leather or cut rope or whatever. I do know this is a great knife, but just wanted to say from the functional standpoint that I'm pleased so far, other than my own learning curve, and love the bug out. Just really struggling with $330 on this. I did not pay $330 for this because I bought it several years ago. I paid somewhat less, but I don't think I'd pay $330 for this today when you can get this, which is a very, very, very similar knife for 2/3 of the price. One other minor difference which I discovered more recently here that I do really like is the deep carry clips on these. If you look at the clip on the bug out, you see it is actually a little bit lower than the back of the knife here, and what this means is this is a little bit more visible in the pocket, whereas the Kershaw here, the deep carry clip, is actually sticking out above the knife body. And what that means is this sits even deeper in the pocket, and it's that much less visible and that much more out of the way. So I do really like this. So far it's a winner, other than operator error. Well, thank you for giving me a few minutes of your time. I hope this was interesting. Just for the record, this was not sponsored. I bought all of these knives with my own money. Just wanted to share some things that I wished I knew when I was shopping. Thanks for watching.